Hi everybody, it's Irene with BrainStormAcres, and this morning we are going to do the first real harvest from the asparagus bed. Now we've had I think 2 asparagus come out before this, but this is actually a big enough harvest to be organized about it. So we thought we'd share. Now, this looks a little odd right now because we've got some old tent poles and some old moving blankets and all kinds of stuff here. But that's because we had some extremely cold weather a couple of nights ago down in the 20s, and we did not want the asparagus to be damaged. So let me get this junk out of the way, and then we'll harvest some asparagus. And one of the hardest things about raising a garden is sometimes being prepared to cover things on practically no notice. In this case, I think we found out that a day or so before, and then we watched carefully to see what was going on, and sure enough, it was going to be too cold. And last year we had some asparagus damaged, so we were pretty determined not to do that again this year. So let me go ahead and move the camera in, and we'll talk about actually how we harvest them. Okay, now if you've ever planted asparagus, you know that asparagus grow from crowns. And what you have to do is you have to decide, well, a few things. First of all, the crowns are right below the surface. They're only maybe an inch below the surface of the dirt. So you can't harvest in here. You can't till in here. You have to be very careful about pulling weeds. You can't get in there with any kind of tilling equipment and mash up the surface because you can damage the crowns. And that's what produces the asparagus. So when you harvest them, I use a clean knife and I simply slice about a ½ an inch below the surface. Now, last year I had someone contact me and say, gee, I need some help with my asparagus. All I keep getting is ferns. And I kind of went, uh-oh. So I explained to them that when you get ferns, it means you've missed the asparagus. You have to be out here every day. And I normally come out twice a day. Let me pull the camera here. I'll show you a fern. Now this fern is a baby. See him right here? That came from a seed. I also have a weed over here, grass. One of the problems with watering your asparagus is that you also get weeds that come in. But you know, I always do all my asparagus weeding by hand. And I really try and stay on it because I don't want anything big to get going in here. Anyway, so when you see ferns, be they little guys like this or bigger, it means you've missed the asparagus. Now, because this came from seed, we're not harvesting it. And there's another little clump over on this side of the bed that is also from seed, right here. Now, there was one that I did harvest from this little bunch here. It's a little hard to see them, they're right over in here. But we had 2 that were damaged by frost, maybe 3. Basically, I'm letting them go. We have one over here that was also damaged by frost. That sprinkled up one here, this guy. I will harvest him today anyway and throw him away. But if you are raising asparagus, you need to be out there. I normally do morning and night. And you have to be expecting that you may need to harvest morning and night. Otherwise, they will get too long. So I'm going to pick a few asparagus today, this morning, but I will probably save a lot of these until this afternoon. And for fresh asparagus, it's more than worth it, shall we say, to have to harvest twice a day. So I'll leave these guys over here, like this guy. I'm going to leave him, but I'll take his buddies over here. I'll also take this one that froze. And you see, I just go under the surface and I slice it off. And he'll go in the trash. But this guy I'm going to harvest, and I put the knife in under the surface, but then I sort of slide it as horizontal as I can. And I also always do my weeding while I'm in here. Wow, that root, that's what I call a root. I composted, I added compost really early this year and got the beds taken care of. So we haven't had too bad a problem with weeds yet. But we had some rather annoying weeds show up in here a couple of years ago. Blew in from somewhere, no idea where. And I have to watch them because I don't want them taking over the planet. So I'm harvesting that one guy. I could allow some of these to get longer. What I usually wind up doing is sort of rotating around the bed more than once. Because I have to get the different angles. Yeah, a bunch of these we'll wait till this afternoon. I don't want to choose them too early. There we go. And I usually wipe my knife off of my pants in between. I'm going to harvest this one because it was broken off accidentally the other day. And I find that the ones that are broken like that don't grow right. So we'll just harvest it. There we go. Okay, well, I keep looking at a couple of these others trying to decide if I want to harvest them now or later. And I think I'll do them later. Probably do them this afternoon. Give them that extra inch. Asparagus are an investment. When we built this bed, and this bed looks simple enough, it's not, believe me. This bed is, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 cement blocks high. You're seeing one and a smidge of a cement block here. But we knew that we wanted asparagus, and I built this about, I don't know, about 6 years ago, I guess. Guy that was working for me as a handyman at the time, got him to come help me dig the hole. And it was funny because I remember him saying, "Oh, I thought it was going to be a really easy day today because I was going to be working with the boss, and you know, she's a girl and it was going to be a piece of cake." I busted his chops. Oh, we worked our butts off that day. Because what we did is, this thing is like 3 feet down. The soil here is this, caliche, which is unconsolidated limestone. It's a calcium deposit that forms here in some parts in the Southwest, and it is impervious to water, and it is nasty and obnoxious. So that big pile of crap behind us here is all the caliche that came out of here, and there's been a lot more that's already been used to repair roads and stuff. So the rest of that has to go too. But basically what we did was we created a monster hole, lined it with cement block, and then filled it with compost and purchased garden loam and everything that we could afford at the time. Then I planted in the asparagus crowns that I had purchased, and every spring I put in several bags of compost. I usually try and put about 2 inches of compost on the top. Now, 2 inches may seem a lot to people who live in temperate climates, but one of the facts of living in a hotter climate is that compost just plain goes away in hot climates. It decays so fast, it is literally burned up by the heat and the microorganisms in the soil. So you have to put that kind of cover on it. If I had to do over again, I would probably plant the crowns a little deeper than I did, but I was a newbie. I just kind of read the instructions and did it. It has worked out. We have been getting asparagus every year. Now, the first year that you plant asparagus, I'm trying to think if we harvested it all. Maybe we harvested for a week. Follow the instructions of the person that you buy the stuff from. And if you can't find good instructions, go to some place like Johnny's Select Seeds and read their growers' instructions online. They have a library that you can go to and just search for stuff in. You don't have to buy anything from them. You can just search through there. Lots and lots of good information. But you want to plant them right, you want to water them right, and you want to fertilize them right. Now, what I mean by that is, you can't just ignore them. They don't like wet feet, which is one of the reasons we created a deep bed, but they also don't like being super dry. And if you let them get super dry, their production will drop down dramatically. When we have long expanses of time in the wintertime with no water, we sometimes will water them in the winter. Now, I warmly start watching things in January. We have never had asparagus come up in January, but when I say watching things, I'm also paying attention to the amount of rainfall or snowfall or whatever. This year we had some periodic rain and snow through January and February. If we had not, I would have started watering. We actually did not need to water until March. And at the beginning of March, I made sure that all the old dead ferns were off and that I put my compost on there. It was either February or March. And then I put down some good organic fertilizer. I don't want crazy amounts, but I wanted something that would be a good slow release organic fertilizer. We have never, knock on wood, had any pest problems here, but we like to make sure that all the old foliage is gone and everything's cleaned up tidy so that there's nothing for it to hang on with if there were any bugs. I was doing some more reading again this winter, trying to figure out if I didn't feel like I was getting quite as many asparagus as I should have. So I was a bit more conscientious about watering this year and also a bit more conscientious about fertilizing. Somehow I missed that they liked a bit more fertilizer, I guess. I also fertilized my garlic more this year, and they seem to be absolutely doing so much better. Sometimes it's nothing wrong with the plant. It's, again, cockpit error. You're just not giving it what it needs. So I will probably give this guy a top dressing again of some more organic fertilizer soon. Something nice that won't burn them. And then I'll water it in a bit. We have currently no forecast of rain, so these are getting watered right now about every 3 or 4 days, depending on how much drying wind we have. One of our problems here is the drying wind, and that's where the compost helps. If I touch the top of the compost, it is completely dry. It is just bone dry. But if I go down knuckle deep, so an inch, I can feel the moisture in there. So I watered good the other day, and what I'm trying to do is really soak it and then leave it. The top compost will form a barrier, and the plants have got something to drink whenever they need it. I hope this helps you get started on your own asparagus adventure. You need to decide where you're going to put asparagus, and you need to leave them. You don't want to be transplanting them. You don't want to be ignoring them. If you make the investment of buying the asparagus crowns and doing a good job of setting them in the first place, it's not uncommon for asparagus plants to produce for 15 or 20 years, assuming there's no major infestation of anything. And we have been very happy so far. Your first year, you harvest for like a week. Then the second year is like 2 or 3 weeks. And after your third year, you can harvest a good chunk. I usually think we do about 6 or 7 weeks. Somewhere in June or thereabouts, we stop harvesting and we let them all go to ferns. And what that does is you get ferns this big instead of little guys like that. And it allows the plants to put all that nutrition back into the roots and restock themselves basically for the next year. They're really pretty as ferns. So it's kind of cheerful to look out here and see these giant ferny things, because you know that that's next year's asparagus harvest getting stored away basically. And yeah, it's something we really look forward to every year, is when the asparagus start popping. So have fun and grow some asparagus. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can see what else we're doing, because I've got a bunch of seeds to plant and a bunch of things to transplant. And I'm still working on a garden bed enlargement project. Lots to do. Have a great day. Bye.